Okay, so hope you can hear me. Now I'd like to tell you something about conditional statements. So first, look at this scheme or block diagram. So arrows denotes the direction of program execution. So this block diagram presents how the program can be executed depending on certain condition. So usually when we will try to create algorithms or to present some assignment in more general form, we will use this kind of block diagram. So for me, it's very important you to understand what particular elements does mean. Yeah? So look, first, this kind of element denotes a decision block. So depending on particular condition, we may execute this piece of code, or that's one. Yeah? So here we have if statement or keyword and the condition. If the condition is true, this piece of code is executed, otherwise this one. And finally, when one of these two will be executed, the program continue, so it doesn't matter which part of code was executed. This piece of code is common for all of the parts, okay? So look, using if statement, so here we have a code in C++ and C, so it's the same for both of them. So here we have a condition. Of course, it is not strictly defined. The condition looks like this. Of course, usually we have variables for which we test the condition. So depending on condition, so this block is denoted by this green one, and this is denoted by this red. And look, we have several elements. So we have curly braces here, which they define a scope of true, and we have keyword else here, which denotes where the block for else begins. Yeah, so starts. Okay, so after the curly braces, we have a common piece of code, so the program will continue. So look, now if we use if command or statement, we can skip particular block. So if it is true, we skip this one. If it is false, we skip this green one. So green one. So so now we can, using this statement, we can control of the program flow. So let's try to analyze several examples. So let's assume that I'd like to okay, so I prompt the user so I prompt the user to enter value which is greater than 0, and of course I wish the user enter the value like that, but the user may enter whatever. So so I have to verify it. So it's enough to write if, and the condition will be if value is greater than 0. Yeah, so literally. And in this case, I can perform cout. Okay. So in this case, I can, process this value, because if it's smaller than 0, okay, the program shouldn't continue because it doesn't meet our condition. And look, so in this case, I can create else statement. So here, this piece of code will be executed Okay, let's assume that I'd like to stop my program. So I decide to return -1. So it means that the program was, terminated in an ordinary way. So not due to we get the end of our code, but due to error. And so, of course, this is a convention. So the convention, like in Windows, you get error number 1156. Yeah. Here I denote this event using value -1, but of course it is arbitrarily selected. So so you can modify it as you want. Okay. Yeah, this is what happened if user would answer with a letter. Yeah, this is problem because in this case the CN, which expects that the user will enter numeric value, this procedure will fail. No, it will not be none because we have int. For ints there are no none, but cn, so input stream, will be in bad state. So in error state. So we can handle this. So it doesn't generate error like the program failed or stops. But the problem is that we have to verify it. Okay, to verify it, of course, we can use conditional statement, and it's enough to verify std cn good. Okay, so this value denotes that the correct value was entered. Okay, so let's say that I print the message that no numeric value was found. So it means that the user entered, let's say, character. So when I run my code here, please enter. Okay, let's assume that now I enter 100. Okay, so value is correct. Please enter. Now, when I press, let's say, -1, value is incorrect. Program will be stopped. Yeah? So I am here. And look, this condition was always true, but now when I enter, for example, A, the condition, the state, CN state is in the wrong state, in bad state, so no numeric value was found. So look, here I have several conditions and they are, let's say, nested. So this condition is defined inside this outer condition. I'd like to pay your attention on indentations. So look, to make our code, so to increase the code readability, it's good manner to apply indentations. Here in my editor, they are generated automatically, and you can set it also, but it increases the code readability. So I am able to visually distinguish where the if starts and where the scope of if finished, and the same for else. And here I have this inner condition, so also I can distinguish where it starts and where the else starts. So I suggest you to use this kind of visual, formatting. Okay. But what else? Let's say that I'd like to get a value which is greater than 0 and smaller than 100. So in this case, What do you think? What should be the condition, and in which line it should be, inserted? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So look, I I need a I need value which meets this condition, and it means the condition value smaller than 100. So I have to combine them. Yeah? And if you try to express it, in verbal way, we have the number is greater than 0 and smaller than 100. So and suggests that we have logical AND operation. Yeah? Okay, so in this case, every value between, let's say, 60, so between 0 and 100 will be correct, while every value outside of this scope, so even 100, will be incorrect. Yeah? So so remember that the complex conditions, so I showed it, here, are quite useful to generate more complex condition. Of course, we can simplify it, especially I think it's very useful for those who start programming. So, of course, this is the most proper way, okay? Fourth one gives true. We're talking about this example. So here, so 5 smaller than 3. Okay, so maybe so do you mean this condition? Yeah. Okay. So look, where is my pencil? Okay, here. So look, the precedence of these two operators is the same. And the associativity is left to right. So, yeah. So look, here I have 0, 1. So the first operation is this one. So it gives 0. And I have 0 or 1. So it gives 1. Yeah. So 5 is different than 6. Yeah, definitely. So finally, I have 0 or 1. So it gives 1. Yeah. So this is the answer. Okay. So how to start? So if you have a problem with defining complex condition, you can start from defining a separate conditions for every term. So I have value greater than 0. So if the value is greater than 0, great, I can go inside. And here I can define if value is smaller than 100. Okay. So in this case, I am here. So if my program takes this position, it means that the value is greater than 0, okay, and the value is smaller than 100. But as I told before, this is, you know, it makes our program more complex, and the readability is worse. So I suggest you to use the complex condition, so which looks like this. Okay, so let's try to. So here in presentation you have the both approaches. So the first approach with simple conditions, and the approach with more complex one. But you know, here the condition is negation of the condition I wrote before. But now I'd like to extend this, and I like to ask the user to enter a number, and let's say odd number. So it should be odd, it should be greater than 0 and smaller than 100. So how to verify whether the value is odd or even? So it's enough to calculate the value of modulo. So reminder. So the modulo returns a reminder. So 1 modulo 2, the reminder is 1. 2 modulo 2, the reminder is 0 because 2 is dividable by 2. So the same for 4. Yeah. Okay, for 5 modulo 3, it's 2. Yeah. But to test even or odd numbers, we have to calculate the value of modulo 2. So let's try to increase it, to extend our condition. So I can add extra conditions. So value modulo 2 equal to 1. So it means that the value is odd. Okay, so look, when I run this code, please enter an odd number, so 3. Okay, the value is correct. But when I run it again, four. Okay, so look, nothing was printed. So do you have an explanation why nothing was printed? Okay, so look, if the value is, let's say 4, the scene condition is good, so my program goes here. The value is greater than 0 and smaller than 1, so my program goes here, and this condition is false. It's not true. So my program skips this line. You can see that here there are no else keyword. So else keyword is not missing, but I don't have else block of code. So look, the programs will continue from this point. So the else, which belongs to this if, and the else, which belongs to the first if, will not be executed. So the program will continue from this position. So the program will be finished. Okay. So therefore, nothing is printed when the condition is wrong. Here you have also an example that if I have only a single command in after if, I can neglect the curly braces. So it's enough if I have only one command, I can skip all curly braces. But I suggest you to use them every time. So to present or to print an information that something was wrong, I can write value is even. So in this case, and the value will be, let's say 6, error value is even. So now it works. Of course, I can merge this condition with this condition. So it's enough to add, okay, value greater than 0, value and value smaller than 100, and value is even. So in this case, I can neglect the inner if, and my condition starts to be more complex. Okay. Look, but this condition, so a modulo 2 equal to 1, can be written in simpler form. So it's enough to write a modulo 2. Why? Because 1 denotes okay, yeah. Mr. Meicher, I suggest you to wait for loops, okay? But because I'm and talking about loops, I try to explain how we can solve the the Cn state. Okay. But now I think it's not time to make such a digression. Okay, so look, I can simplify it. Why? Because value which is different than 0 is treated as a true. So a modulo 2, if it is 0, 0 means false. And if it is 1, it means true. So you can skip this, this part and write the condition in a simpler form. They are equivalent. Okay. Line 10, this one. Okay. I'd like to tell you that was digression. So I answered the question. Like I didn't intend to introduce what we shall do to solve the wrong wrong string. So what shall you do when the user enter a wrong string? Yeah, you will use or try to cope with it during laboratory classes. I try to explain it when I start talking about loops. Okay, but now you should only know that if the user will enter not numeric value, so it enters A, B, C, for example, it cannot be converted into number. So the Cn doesn't know how to do it, so it, let's say, it switches to something which is called error state. So if you want to verify whether proper value was entered, so the value which consists of digits, okay, because here I have integer value, so I expect the user enter digits. So if you want to verify it, whether it was done or not, it is enough to verify this condition. But if the user entered wrong characters, the Cn is in error state, so we have to handle it before we read the next value from Cn. But be patient. I will try to show how to solve this problem later on. But of course, we can use also conditional statements to test not only numeric values, but let's say characters. So, for example, I'd like to create a character variable. So variable char, let's say, choice. And now And I expect the user answer will be yes or no. So now I'd like to cn choice. Okay. So now, how to verify it? During the first lecture, I showed you that characters the characters in C are represented by using ASCII array. So this array looks like this. So for particular character, the numeric value is, with particular character, numeric value is associated. So now I'd like to, but if we want to refer to particular character, we can refer to numeric value, let's say in hexadecimal form or in decimal form, but we can also refer to character symbol with single quotes, okay? So in this case, I'd like to verify whether the user choice is equal to yes. Okay. So in this case, okay. So I will comment this code. So I have choice, and I ask the user. So look, when I run my code, okay. Are you sure to exit? Okay, yes. Your answer is yes. No, your answer is no. But look, when I press key, for example, capital, I enter a capital letter, yes, okay. Your answer is no. So if you use Y or capital Y, it's, it makes difference. So here I have to test or verify whether it's a lowercase or capital. So what shall I do here? So what should be the logical operator which merge these two conditions? Okay. Yeah. So I have to use or, because it's enough the choice is lowercase or uppercase. Okay. Of course, it solves the problem partially. So now, capital Y, okay. it works. But for example, if you press X, the answer is no. So in fact, this program is not strictly corrected, because the no answer means everything else. But okay, we solve this problem later. Okay. So here you have an example. You can try to run it by your own. Now I'd like to tell you, it's a kind of digression, but I'd like to tell you about the bug which was reported in 2014. So let's say 6 years ago. But this bug was, it occurred in Mac OS. So what happened? After system update, user, when they tried to connect with web page secured by SSL, so all web pages for which you use HTTPS protocol, they get the information that the connection is untrusted. So what does it mean? It means that the web page certificate was not confirmed by certificate authorities. So every web page which is protected by HTTPS has certificate. This certificate led us to, encrypt transmission. So it is, let's say, the security is higher than without encryption. But the problem is that when every certificate should be issued by one of there are several companies which generates such certificates, and they confirm when I connect with web page, I can confirm or verify whether this certificate was issued by particular authority. So the benefit is that I am sure that I connect with correct web page, because sometimes due to, for example, phishing attacks, I can think that I connect with, let's say, my bank web page, but it turns that there is a small difference in domain name, and in fact I connect with a web page of different subject. But when you are sure that the domain name is okay, and you get the message like this, it means two things. So the first, that the certificate was generated by the user, so they don't want to pay for this certificate. But if you connect with your bank account, with your mail account, usually this message means that there is something which is called man-in-the-middle attack. So what is the man-in-the-middle attack? Look, here is my computer, and here I have a server. And when I connect with HTTPS protocol, the server returns certificate, and I can confirm this certificate in CA, so certificate authorities. So certificate authorities confirm that this certificate was issued for this domain for a particular, company. So when CA doesn't confirm the certificate, it means that probably, in case of your bank account, there is someone else here. So let's say hacker or bad guy, and the man-in-the-middle attack works like this. The hacker takes the certificate from server, but it gives me its own certificate. So it is able to encode and decode my messages, and for example, to change, the bank, the account number, or the so it is able to to modify my communication with, let's say, bank. So in this case, I shouldn't to continue, but after this bug, so the result of this bug was that it doesn't matter what was the web page, this message was, displayed every time. Apple explained what was the source of this bug. So here you have a piece of code which was the source of this bug. Are you able to find the line in which the error was generated? So look how it works. I have SSL protocol, so which it is responsible for HTTPS communication. Okay, yeah, it's yeah. So look here, I have go to fail. So look, if hash is ready, okay. So if if something goes wrong, go to fail. I don't suggest you to use go to. It's typical for C++, so please don't do it. But this code was written in pure C, so there are a lot of go to. So if something was wrong, go to fail. Yeah? So several conditions are checked, and if something was wrong, go to fail. But here probably there was a condition which was deleted, but okay, go to fail is still here. So it doesn't matter what was the the condition or what was the certificate. Every time the program went to fail. So what is the what does it mean for us? So I suggest you to use curly braces all the time. If you use curly braces, even there will there are two go to fail commands, it should work okay, because the first command will be proceeded, this command will not be reached. Okay, so this is my suggestion and small explanation. Why should we use curly braces? Okay, here you can see that because we have only a single command, the curly braces are neglected. Yeah, but it's better to use them to avoid the problems like this. Okay. There, I can see that Mr. Mateusz asked that how to print a numeric value of a character. So if you want to see out choice, so if you want to print it like this, the character will be printed. But if you want to print a numeric value, so the value from ASCII array static cast int choice. So I suggest to convert it explicitly by using static cast. Okay. Okay, I think that it's not so important for us. You will be practice it for during laboratory classes, but I'd like to mention that there are some conditional statements which are not Boolean type. So I'd like to perform particular or several block of codes depending on the value. So if, for example, a is equal to value 1, I'd like to execute this. If a is equal to value 2, I'd like to execute this. If, okay, and so on. So look, in this case, when I'd like to make such block or such program, you can see that the condition I can create it with by using if condition, but it's a little bit complicated. So in this case, the better way is use to switch case statement. So what the switch is, so it works like this. Here I have my program, and here I have the switch. So depending on value of a, the program is switched to particular, sections. So using this notation, I can represent the conditional statements on better or let's say easier. Yeah. So what is the characteristic for switch? Okay, I have keyword switch, and here I have a switch switching variable, and here I have case with, so I have case value and colon operator. So so every case has to have specified value of a. If they are this value is equal to a, this piece of code is generated. But you will be using switch case during your laboratory classes. I think it's it should be enough for you now. Here you have several examples how we can use a switch case command. So, for example, if I'd like to generate a menu, so I print the user 1, do something, 2, do something else, and so on. So I can get the user answer here, and depending on the answer, I can go to particular section of the code. So if the answer is character, I have to refer, so this is quite important. So the A is character, yeah? So if the A is character, I have to refer to ASCII value, yeah? So I have to use single quote with a character. But if the character, not character, but user choice is integer, look here, I expect that the user answer will be, let's say, 1, 2, 3, so numeric value in general. So in this case, it's not case 1, so character 1, but it's case value 1. So in this case, Cn gets the numeric value from the user input. So here I can have, let's say, case 30 as well, but it is impossible to have case X. No? So it is impossible that user answer will be, let's say, something else than digit. Okay. Okay, so the last topic for today is for loop. So now I'd like to tell you something about loops. So first we start from the block diagram, and I try to analyze it and to show how the flow in program works. So look, here I have the execution condition. So it's the same like for if statement. So I have the branch for false and the branch for true. So up to this time, everything is the same like for if. But in case of if, I have the common piece of code. So the program will continue. So after performing this or this operation, the program will continue. But in loops, it works different. So in case of loop, when the condition is true, the loop's code block is executed. And then the program returns to execution condition. So it goes, let's say, up. So if I have a code with loop, I perform a particular code block, I can check the condition again, and I can perform the same code of block again. So particular code block is repeated. So the execution of this code block is repeated several times. In C and C++, we have 3 different kinds of loops. The most popular is for loop. So now I'd like to look inside. So look, if we have a for loop, it consists of several elements. So here is for loop definition, and I have several fields. So I have initialization, let's say 1, execution condition 2, update 3, and here I have a loops code block, let's say 4. So look how it is executed. Here we have commands entered. So initialization 1. So this block is executed only once. So when our program is running, first the initialization is executed, and then we go to the block execution condition. So the condition is verified whether it's true or false. If it is true, loops code block is executed, so the number 4, and then the update number 3 is processed. And then again, execution condition, loops code block, update. And as long it is going like that, as long as the execution condition will not be false. So in this case, we have the latter part of the program. Okay, so let's try to analyze it on, simpler, using simpler or simple example. So look, this is the simplest, implementation of for loop. So look, here I have this field is the initialization 1. Execution condition 2. Loops block of code was 4. Here update was 3. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So first, integer variable is created and initialized, let's say here, with 1. The second operation is condition. So it verifies whether I is smaller than 7. So you can see I is 1, so it's smaller than 7. So we can go inside. So in this case, we see out I and comma. So in the first iteration, these characters were printed. So it's 2, 4. And now when this code was executed, we go to the update condition 3. So in update condition, the value of I is increased by 1. So now the I is not 1, but it is 2. And the condition is verified. So 2 is smaller than 7. So this value is printed. Again, update. So now I is 3. This value is printed, and so on until the I is 6. Because when I is 6, so this value was printed, and we increment I, it is not smaller than 7. So the loop is terminated. So the program will continue starting from the line after the for loop code. block. Look, here you have the same loop, but update statement is different. So now I plus equal to, so I is increased by 2. So the first variable is 1. Oh, yes, okay. Can we use another form of variable in initialization instead of int? Of course, yes. You can even skip this field, so you can leave this field empty. But usually in initialization, we create something which is called counter. So the variable which counts the number of repetitions. But if you want, you can define the counter which is not int, but it can be float or character. So it depends on purpose. Okay. Okay, so look here, the counter is incremented by 2. So when you update it, it's 3 and 5, and when it is 5 and it is incremented by 2, you get 7. So it's smaller than this condition is false. So the loop is terminated. So, oops. Okay. So let's try to write. Okay, so let's start from the simplest example. So here I have I, which starts from 0 and with I smaller than 7. So the last value of I will be, let's say, 6. And I'd like to print it. So look, in this case, I get values 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 without any, commas, spaces. So because there are no elements like this. But let's try to think, what shall I do to print values not from 0 to 7 or from 1 to 7, but from 7 to 1? So I'd like to start from 7. Oh, okay, let's say 6. And I'd like to finish on 0. So I'd like to print 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Huh? So this is my goal. Okay, of course, I can minus minus. Okay. So look, if I take the for loop like this, the result will be, oops, okay, yeah. So what happened? I have infinite loop because this condition is always true because I is smaller than 7 for negative values, it is smaller than 7 too. So I have to modify this condition. There are several ideas. So I greater than -1, okay, it can be. I don't know what does it mean. I greater than -1 asterisk. But okay, I can write also I greater or equal than 0. Yeah, so it's, you know, literally the same. So in this case, can have the result I want to get. What else? I can combine, for example, I'd like to print all variables from 0 to, let's say, 100. So I change the, okay. So I'd like to print all variables as the count. No, sorry. Right. Okay. So it looks like this. But I'd like to print variables which are dividable by, let's say, 5 and 7. Huh? So if I'd like to print only these variables which are dividable by 5, it's enough to write inside if I modulo 5 is equal 0. So in this case, yeah, only the values which modulo reminder modulo 2 will be printed. Yeah? So 85, 90, 95. Okay, but now I'd like to find this which are dividable by 5 and 7, but I have, let's say, and. So it means that the both conditions should be true. Okay. So let's say 35, for example. So look, 0, 35, 70. So only those values meet my condition. Okay. Okay, today we have also quiz planned. So I think that time to finish, to switch to Moodle platform. Next lecture, so next week I will start from while loop.